fun, man. That was
a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was good. We didn't turn your mic on, but that was awesome.
That's the most fun I've had up here since comedy night.
Since comedy night, yeah. Hey, you guys, welcome. We are just so excited about this day. We're going to take like 25 minutes here, and we're going to tell you about our life. I really, truly feel. Can you scoot back just a little bit? Just like this way here. I want you. No, not that far. Just over here this way. Closer to me.
Closer?
Yeah. That way I can see my daughter because I'm going to be saying things about her. So. Hey, I really do. We feel super honored to be asked to share about our life. I titled this message, and it's just kind of a long title, but here's the title of the message: Our Way, a way, not the only way, and not necessarily the right way. And so that's kind of the title of this session together. And we're just going to kind of share our way, Michele and I, just some things along the way. We've been married coming up May the 18th, so we're less than a month away. We'll be married 26 years, and yeah. I look out there, and I'm seeing those of you. I just kind of go, man, you should be up here because you've done a better job in many ways of raising a family and doing some things right that and so we just feel honored. But these are some things that we've learned along the way, some mistakes, some challenges. And I've asked Donald Enoch. You guys know him as the comedian from Comedy Night. He is a deep man of God, one of our emerging leaders here at River Run, just super guy. So I asked him because I have a tendency to ramble.
Nah.
And so he's going to keep me on track. And Michele,
I'm not even sure why I have a microphone.
Yes.
I'll make sure I ask you some questions directly.
So anyway, Donald, thank you for coming up and agreeing to just kind of interview us, and I really appreciate you.
Well, so first, I'm honored to be up here. And second, I would like to thank you for, one, just opening your hearts and being vulnerable to us, because when we talk about our families, these are very sensitive topics, and they're not always easy to talk about. So let's just kind of jump right in.
Okay.
First, just tell us a little bit about your family.
All right. Well, you know this, so you want to go?
I should know it. Well, we've lived in Florida, Central Florida, for about 17 years now, and we have two children. Hunter is 23. Is he 20? Oh my gosh, he's 23 now. Been married. They just celebrated their 3-year anniversary on the 20th, and they have 2 children. So yes, I'm a grandmother of 2. So Zoe and Lincoln.
Mamaw.
Yeah, that's fun. It's fun. Yay. And then our daughter, Hannah, is right down there on the front row, newly engaged with her fiance, Ryan, who we have come to just love and adore. And sorry, buddy, but you're part of all of it now, There's no turning back.
So let's just kind of go back a little bit further. So tell us about the early years, like when you met. What made you guys decide to get married?
So we got married young. I was 21. I was 20 when we met. So we dated for about a year. We were engaged for about 6 months. Michele was 19.
I was 19.
Yeah. So
26 years later. So, age doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
And we decided early on. We really did. We decided early on. This is just the practical side of me. After about 2 dates, I know this is kind of going to sound weird to you guys, but after about 2 dates, I said, one of 2 things is going to happen. We're either going to break up or we're going to get married. And so I just kind of said, if you don't think that I'm the kind of person that you would want to marry, if you don't see any potential there at all, let's just don't continue to go down this path. and if you think that there's just no way, this is not about just dating for dating's sake, and that would just be a huge encouragement that I would give to our young adults and high schoolers, that don't just date for dating's sake. And I know, we have these hookup sites and stuff. I don't know, you said that in church, but that's like, we just said from very early on that we're gonna date who we would choose to be our mate. I didn't know that she was going to be the one, but we decided early on not to even go down that path. If you didn't think this was going to work as a deeply rooted faith in Christ couple.
But don't think that there was no romance. I mean, yes, we're very practical, simple people, but there was romance too. So don't just think that that first date we're like, okay, are we going to get married or are we going to break up? Let me think about this for a minute. Well, let's work towards marriage. There was some romance too.
I'm a very romantic person, and but I will tell you, there is a memory. It's a video that plays inside my brain. There's a memory etched inside of me that I knew when I saw Michele that she was somebody. I already knew she had a deep faith in Christ. We went to school together at Kentucky Christian University, so I already knew, I had conversations with her. I knew her deep-rooted faith in Christ. So that was a number one priority. And I just would say that to those of you who are young adults and those of you who are in a marriage situation, that you would agree with me on this if your spouse is not a follower of Christ. It is a challenge. It is a challenge. It is a challenge. So your number one priority is to make sure that they are a deep-rooted follower of Christ. But just because somebody's a deep-rooted follower of Christ doesn't mean that you're also going to be that person, you're attracted to them or that you're going to be married to them. But there's a memory that plays in my head, and she was in The Sound of Music, this theater production of Sound and the Music. And I saw her, I was like watching her, not stalking in a creepy kind of a way, but I was watching her on the stage, and the way it was after a rehearsal, and I watched the way she was running and playing with these young children that she was watching and caring for at the time. And I thought, that's a person that I could marry, and I didn't know she was the one, but I knew right then, and that memory plays in my head all the time. I don't even know if I've ever told you that or not.
You have.
So now we know what attracted you to Michele, but really what's on our minds is what attracted Michele to you. That's really what I want to know.
I had a mullet. Long hair and a mullet, and I had abs.
So Michele,
yes.
Now it's your 5 minutes.
Well, those of you who know me know that I really am an incredibly practical-minded person. Any decision that I make in my life, I literally look at, okay, what's this going to look like down the road? I had the butterflies and the excitement, and he was an incredible singer, and he made me laugh, and I loved that. But also, I practically looked down the road, and these are things that I'm just telling you, it's just the way I am. You may think it's weird. I'm like, okay, he's not lazy, so I'm not going to be having to work my butt off supporting a family because he's going to be laying on the couch somewhere. That was so important to me because I saw his work ethic, and that was super important. I just knew that he would be someone to help take care of the family. So that was really important. And also, gosh, it took him so long to kiss me first time. And I kind of liked that too, because he didn't rush into anything. I mean, there was a moment when I thought, I'm going to have to be the first one to make the move, because this guy is never going to kiss me. But, in the long run, it's a good thing, because we gave each other time to really build that relationship.
Thanks. So that's sweet. So it is. I was being serious. That wasn't a joke. It was sweet. Not everything I say is funny. So, all right. So you guys get married. You have children. So earlier this week, you had talked about having some non-negotiables in raising kids. Can you expand on that a little bit, Michele?
Yes. We literally had one car for the first, how many years of our marriage?
Well, it was almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years.
We decided before that, though, even we decided early on that we wanted to, we wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom. Again, this was our way. We're not saying it's the only way, not saying it's the right way. We just said we wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom. But in order to do that, we had to make some deep, deep sacrifices, especially being in ministry, because we didn't make a lot of money. So we went with one car for almost 10 years of marriage. It was actually before we started River Run. Before we moved down here, when we bought our second vehicle, I bought a little truck. Some of you guys who've been with us from the beginning remember that. I bought this little Ford Ranger truck because at that time, we kept all the sound equipment and all of the equipment for the church in our house when we moved down here. And I used that truck to haul our equipment around. That was the first time we had bought a second vehicle in our marriage. So we had to make some sacrifices in order to do that. But that was one of our first things, was that we wanted to make sure that she was a stay-at-home, mom.
And that was a good thing. I loved staying home with my kids. My career didn't come until later, and that was okay for me. That was fine. I know not everybody wants to do that. They want to have their career and children, and I've seen people that are hugely successful with that. I don't multitask well. I knew that I would not have been a good mom if I had to try and keep track of something else. So that's why we made that sacrifice, that I would stay at home and take care of the kids until they were in school. And then when they went to school, I went and taught in the public school system myself.
And like I said, I don't think everybody can do that, but I think that, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good statement to say, because I think a lot of people can do it. You just have to really make some conscious decisions and change the way you live in order to be able to do that. But we also wanted to live kind of a more simple life as well. One of the things that we saw, I think I jumped on one of your questions here, but you were going to ask, but one of the things that we saw is how busy the American family is. And we decided early on, too, that we weren't going to be that way. We weren't going to be this hectic run, this ragged race, and have kids in 4 different sports and another kid in 4 different sports and karate and just running ragtag and haggard all the time. We decided early on, too, that she was my wife first and she was a mother second. Same thing. I was a husband first and a father second.
And I'm going to jump in here. That is so important. And this is just me talking from my heart to all of you right now. It is so critical that that your life does not revolve around your children. It can't. Because what'll happen, and we saw it with our friends, what'll happen is we see the people that our kids grew up with. We had families that once their kids were out of school, they didn't know who they were anymore, and they ended up divorced. Bring your kids along with you. Include your kids in everything. That's what we did. Sometimes we didn't even go to parties because the kids weren't invited, and it was like, we like our kids. We'll just not go to that party. But I just cannot stress that enough.
And so making Christ the center.
Just have to make Christ the center.
Making Christ the center rather than the kids the center.
Make your relationship important. Don't forget who you are as a couple. So important, because if you forget who you are as a couple and your life revolves around just taking care of your kids all the time, everything you do is the kids, when those kids are out of the house, you don't know who your spouse is anymore. And that can be a hard recovery to come from.
So we have people over the years in ministry, just so many people, and when their kids have left the house, they're just like, what do we do now? And when our kids left the house, we were like, yeah, what are we going to do now? This is great, So I think that's a really, really important thing. And that's no offense, Hannah. We love you. So here's the thing. I want to just kind of say this. I think sometimes what happens, and if there was probably anything I could say, it'd be this right here, that in our attempt to try to provide everything for our children because we think that's what they need, we think that they need the karate and the volleyball and the dance recital and the piano lessons and the soccer and the baseball and the football. We think because maybe we didn't get that, or we think that they need that, we fill up their lives, or we allow them to fill up their lives so much that they are almost overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed as a family, and so we just decided early on that we were going to let them do one thing at a time. and each of them could choose one thing. And it really provided a lot more balance. And I think if there's anything that we stumbled over correctly, this was one of the things, is that it provided a lot more balance. And we weren't running around haggard, especially with the challenges of ministry. We weren't running around haggard all the time in our marriages. All right.
So I do have a question.
Okay.
So you talked about keeping Christ in the center of your life as a couple as well as your children's life. So talk to me about, how do you do that? How do you keep Christ in the center of their life?
Well, I said I was going to share with you my deepest mistake that I made. I'm going to jump all the way.
Yeah, I know. I'm following you.
I'm going to jump all the way
yes.
to what we kind of talked this through, but this is unscripted, But I kind of had some notes of things I definitely want to make sure that I say.
Okay.
But I'm going to jump to the end, because this is kind of the ending part here, is that the one mistake that I made, we did keep church as the center of our lives. And I think there is an incredible value for those of you who raised your kids to know that church is important. But the one thing, if there's any one mistake that I made, it is that because I know the challenges of, you guys have heard the term preacher's kids, PKs, and the challenges that they face, there's an undue pressure that's placed on them. Because as a pastor, I'm still a person, and we've kind of said this from the very beginning. Ever since we started River Run, we wanted to just say, hey, we're going through this journey with you. We're not over you. We're not above you, but we're going on this journey with you. But one of the things that we do kind of live in a glass house. There are things that people have as expectations. They want their pastor to have a better family, a stronger family, to be better than they are. And so that puts a lot of pressure on kids growing up. And I'm not making an excuse, but one of the things that I tried to do as a pastor is to really, really protect my children from that living in a glass house effect, so that they could be who they are and kind of figure out this journey of faith on their own. That was my intention and reason. The thing that I did that was wrong and is that I didn't really talk to my kids about their relationship with Christ. I talked to them about how important church is. I was kind of like the religious Pharisee almost. When it came to, I was talking to my kids about how important church is. But I don't know that I ever really sat down and said, hey, this is why church is important. This is why we believe this. This is why our family is doing this. This is why this is so urgent, because there's a world that's lost, and here's why they're lost. And this is the relationship with Christ that you need to have, and that's important. I don't know that I had that conversation when they were growing up, but I did center my family around the church. So I think that was the greatest single mistake that I made as a parent. I'm going to talk more about that in our breakout session, because one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to gather everybody together and just say, hey, let's get all the people that have preschoolers and let's put them in a room together so we can deal with what preschoolers' parents deal with. Let's get all the young adults in a room, or pre-parenting in a room, those people who haven't had kids yet. Let's get all them in a room so we can talk to them. One of the things that Michele and I are doing is let's get all the people that are now raising young adults and let's get them in a room talking together. So in a little while when we separate out, I'm gonna talk about that a whole lot more in depth, or and just kind of share what I'm doing now about that.
That's good. Thank you. I look forward to the session next. So I do have a question for you, Michele.
Okay.
This is Michele's question here.
Okay, I'll let you.
So let's talk a little bit about discipline. This is a fun topic, right? So I want to know, so there's like some people spank, some people do timeout. So I'm Korean, so traditional Korean families, we don't do timeout. We have this thing called knockout. Yeah. So, I don't know if y'all do knockout, but talk to me about discipline. So, you talked about their spiritual life and how you fostered that, but let's talk about physically.
Discipline. Discipline is so much fun because every child is different. What works for one does not necessarily work for the other. Now, we did spank, and when we spanked, it was only when they were being directly defiant and disobedient to us. And it was never out of anger. We never went out of, I had a spoon. So there was a physical act of me having to go to the kitchen to get the spanking spoon. I said, I'm going to count to 3. You need to change your behavior, or I'm going to go get the spoon. 1, with Hunter, 1, 2, behavior changed. Because I think, handful of times we had to spank that boy. And then that was it. Just the thought of it was enough to take care of Hunter.
Hannah was like,
Hannah was hard to discipline. Oh my gosh, I read every book. I love you, babe. You're amazing now, and she's my best friend now. So I did something right because she is my best friend. We're in that mode now of adult to adult, which is amazing. But wow, that girl.
She was like, though, you could say, Hannah, if you do that, I'm going to spank you. And she would be like,
you could see the wheels turning in her head. I think it's worth it.
I think it's
I'm going to do it anyway. Go ahead and bring it on. Bring it on, Mom and Dad, because I'm still going to do what I want to do.
Which I put down because I wanted to talk about this. There's 3 important keys to discipline. And one is you have to agree on the acceptable form of discipline for your family. And I know in a room this size, not everybody spanks. Some of you shouldn't spank. You have anger issues. You shouldn't, Some of you maybe came from a family where it was abused. Some of you came from a family where you didn't spank at all, and that's we did at it very early on. And you did, but you have to agree on what is acceptable for you as a couple going in early as you're having kids. Now, I mean, some things are just not acceptable. You cannot Velcro your toddler to the wall to keep him in a timeout. That's not an acceptable form of discipline. But you have to agree going on. But the second thing Michele said, she counted. We would count. You don't even have to count. Not everybody counts. But we did. But the big thing is be consistent. Be consistent. Whatever it is that you have agreed on, you can't do this like, I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 2 1/4, 2 1/2, 3. Now, come on, guys. I'm serious. I'm going to count to 3. 1, you can't do that. You just can't. You have got to be consistent. Like Donald, I grew up where it's like, I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, bam. You said 3. You should have moved on 2.
That's why my dad was.
Yeah,
too.
right,
That's
right,
my dad was.
right. And then the third thing is, find out what works. Like for Hunter, it was like, Hunter, I'm going to spank you if you do. Okay, I won't do it. Hannah, I'm like, it didn't work for her. But Hannah was like, I could do it. Hannah, if you do that, it's going to cost you $10. I won't do it,
Take when she got to wearing makeup. I took her makeup away from her, and that was like devastating. So, you have to find something that will work punishment-wise. Now, when she got older, it was a financial decision, So, you have to find what works, and sometimes it takes a while, because that first, until she was, 5 or 6, nothing worked. It was just a constant, I'm just spinning my wheels here. Is she even getting this? So, but our kids are great. I love them so much. Hunter and Hannah, we did something right, I think, because they are productive members of society who love God and have great families. So, phew.
Hey, I have 39 seconds left here.
36 now.
36 seconds. I want to say this one last thing while we've got everybody in the room together, because I don't often have a time to say this. I want to go back to something that we talked about a minute ago about the activities everything and living a more simple, routine life. I want to say something because I don't get an opportunity to say this. When you, as a parent, when your kids are involved in all of those activities, and that takes priority, because one of the things that was a non-negotiable for us is that no activity could routinely be more important than our worship as a family with our local church family. And here's what I've seen. I've seen this as a great, great challenge for families. When volleyball, when soccer, when activities, even your own hobbies, when those become more important in your priority of life than the worship of your Creator, you have just sent a very loud and clear message to your children as to what is important in this life. That's why, Paul talks about this. Do not be in the habit of meeting together as some have been in the habit of doing. And it is so important for us. And I should have had the conversations along with church that I am having now, but I should have had those conversations. But worship was a high priority in our family. The second non-negotiable for us was something, and I did not know that Dan and Shauna were going to lead this thought in communion, and it was just awesome. But another priority was we did everything in our power to make sure that our evening meals, that we had an evening meal together as a family. And there's in ministry especially, and those of you who I know you have work schedules that are crazy. There's always a book to be read in ministry. There's always a crisis in somebody else's family. There's always a preparation. Sundays come around with an amazing regularity, I've found out. And so there's always preparation for that. So there's always something that could take priority in the place over that. But the one thing that we always did was we said our evening meal is a high priority for us. Only in the dire crisis or emergencies does something stand in the way of that. All right, I know we're out of time.
Our time is up.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you for opening your hearts and just being vulnerable. And I was really honored to sit up here and talk with you this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for trying to keep us on track.
Yeah.